Okay, all of this broke last night for me, so I'm writing the script when I should probably be sleeping, but it's all too exciting. Dodgerel has officially announced a farewell to ARMS, along with a public statement and multiple screenshots of the upcoming update. And a release date, April 5th. I'm going to go through everything that's been released and what you can expect from the final update in the Gungeon timeline. My only regret is that I probably won't be able to play the update as soon as it comes out thanks to my computer, but I'm still ridiculously excited. Firstly, we have that same promotional image that was leaked not too long ago. Not much to say that I haven't already said about it in the original video. A tweet from Dodgerel promises new Gungeoneers, yes, plural, new guns and items, a new secret floor and boss, and rainbow mode. First of all, yes, they're adding multiple new Gungeoneers. The screenshots give it away as well. As you can see of this screenshot in the breach, the Gunslinger, now pretty much confirmed as one of the new characters, is standing next to a glitchy looking version of the pilot referred to as the Paradox. This other screenshot of the Gunslinger shows him with a weapon I've mentioned before, the Slinger Gun. In a PlayStation blog, Dave Crook said that the second new character, referring to the Gunslinger, has a wild starting item, maybe referring to some wacky quality of the Slinger Gun, or something to do with one of his passives. The face card of the Paradox reveals that, just like we were promised, they have no past, and the question marks for starting items definitely implies that they've carried through on the idea of a random character. It also looks like you've got to pay a handful of hegemony credits to play them. As for the full screenshot, there's not much else to note other than a weird pedestal with a stone gun on it. If I had to guess, this is to do with the Gunslinger's alt skin, since out-of-place objects just laying around the player area tend to be alt skin doodads. If this is an alt skin, it would imply that the Gunslinger does have a past, which would also mean another boss to go in that past, and maybe even some boss minions. Next we have these screenshots, showing the Gunslinger going up against a group of dressed-up bulletkin in a fancy hallway. We can see cushy chairs, water coolers, electric lights, a wall-mounted telephone, and potted plants. This is most likely the new secret floor they've mentioned, and it seems to be far more modern than any other floor within the Gungeon. In fact, it kinda reminds me of the Cut Nakatomi floor that has a similar aesthetic, but this is a clearly different tile set despite its similarities. It could also be something to do with the Office Party songs in the game's OST. They've been there for a long time, but they never really applied to anything as far as I can remember. Also, this bulletkin is wearing a suit and tie. I wonder if these are special enemies each, say a different costume means a different enemy, if they're a special enemy as a whole, like some sort of group sophisticated bulletkin, or if each bulletkin on this floor just gets a random suit. We also get a glimpse at a new enemy, a giant bulletkin with a red tie holding a giant magnum. At first I thought this was a boss, and while it does look imposing enough to be one, the room it's in is very small for a boss fight, and there's a teleporter in the center. The only boss room that contains a teleporter is the Warmongers, and that's purely because walking back up from the bottom of the room can be a pain. There's also only one obvious way in or out of this room, whereas most boss rooms have exits to an elevator. In fact, the only non-endgame boss without a simple corridor out of the boss room is the Rat, and that's because they make you exit through a hole. Also, it seems unlikely that Dodgerel would just go ahead and spoil their big new boss in such a nonchalant way. Speaking of this new boss, what have they said about it? Dave Crook said the following on that PlayStation blog. A new secret floor with its very own special boss that we really can't wait for the community to experience. Make sure you have your sound on. This boss is in some ways the ultimate form of every joke or reference in Enter the Gungeon. It holds a particular place in our hearts and is something we probably would never have been able to do if you hadn't helped make Enter the Gungeon the success it has become. Thank you, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as we do. I'm not sure what they mean by it being the ultimate form of every joke or reference, but make sure you have your sound on definitely implies that this boss or floor is going to make some weird noises when fought, and will probably be quite memeable. Imagine if it spoke, wouldn't that be weird? To finish off that screenshot with the big bullet, we can see what looks to be a purple mass, which I think is probably the Paradox screenshotted in the middle of some animation, surrounded by an army of tiny turtles and what looks to be a small skeleton firing 2 green lasers. The tiny turtles have actually been in the works for a while, which we know thanks to an unused Ammonomicon entry for an item called Turtle Problem. Turtle Problem. Is this normal? Attracts normal turtles. You've just inherited a big problem. I'd say what we're seeing here is Turtle Problem fully realized. As for the little skeleton, it almost comes across to me as something you'd get out of a synergy more than an item in its own right, but it could be either, I have no way of actually knowing. Here's another normal screenshot aside from the swarm of baby turtles just sorta hanging around. A couple screenshots have been released showing this little blue NPC, one of him perched atop a chest, and the other with him holding his arms to the sky and proclaiming, "Don't you wish there were more rainbow chests?" The PlayStation blog gave away more info on him as well. According to Dave, this little guy's name is Bowler, and he's tied to the new Rainbow mode, similarly to the Sorceress, Daisuke, and Tonic. The full screenshot even clearly reveals he's located in their room in the breach. What is Rainbow mode? No, it's not like the mod. At the beginning of every floor, a rainbow chest will drop, from which the player will be allowed to take one item. These rainbow chests will be the player's only source of items for the entire run outside of master rounds and, say, a supply drop should it randomly drop from a room clear. It will also work alongside other modifiers. I can hardly wait for the robot 10 Curse Double Challenge Turbo Blessed Rainbow Mode speedrun that's going to drop about an hour after release. Finally, for screenshots, we have these two showing the Gungeoneer being surrounded by the laser from a beam weapon that's also targeting an enemy. With Gamma Ray, it's a nice circle, and with the Proton backpack, it's a wacky wiggly flower shape, though if I had to guess, that's because the player also has helix bullets in this image. I don't know if this is some sort of synergy that both guns have, or if it's an item in its own right. If it is an item, I wonder how it'll work with projectile guns. Now that we've all calmed down, I'm going to wrap things up by going over everything else covered in that blog. Aside from bug fixes and performance improvements, they've announced a bunch of quality of life improvements, such as the boss bar going transparent if the player stands under it, rewards for having to deal with pedestal and wall mimics, and tweaks to rare NPCs to make them slightly less rare. They've also said that they've buffed a bunch of lower tier items to make them less quick restart inducing. Some of these buffs apparently significantly change the way the items function, so look out for that. In the same vein, they're making loot from red chests more consistently good, so that you won't feel disappointed upon opening them. And finally, for quality of life tweaks, they've announced something that will make a lot of players very happy. They're making the boss damage per second cap more forgiving, allowing you to kill bosses quicker should you become truly overpowered. Not gone completely, as a lot of people want, but definitely loosened. The last thing they mentioned in the blog was a new variant of a powerful enemy. They didn't go into detail, but maybe it's something to do with the big bullet from earlier? So yeah, that's what we've been told in the official announcements. No animated trailer like AG&D, but maybe they're planning to release something later. What are your thoughts on what we've been given? Do you think that these features will improve the game as a whole? I know that plenty of people are going to be annoyed that Lamey doesn't look like she'll ever make it in, but we're being given so much for completely free that it's hard to complain. But anyways, I've got to go decide my life goals by putting a crate of fortune cookies in a washing machine. See ya! Also, if this tweet by Dave a bit ago is anything to go by, we might be getting a pettable dog in the update. 10 out of 10, best game ever.